Good afternoon. My name is Mojibur Daftori. Warm welcome to the virtual international conference titled 50 Years of Independence, Geopolitical Support for Bangladesh in 1971. This conference is jointly organized by European Bangladesh Forum, EBF, and British Bangla News TV, London. You are watching this program in Facebook and YouTube Live of British Bangla News TV, as well as EBF websites. Dear viewers, you can send questions or comments in comment section of Facebook and YouTube Live that will be answered by the distinguished panel of this conference during Q&A session. Now I am inviting our distinguished panel in the program. Please welcome Mr. Siegfried O. Please, Mr. Siegfried, Dr. Siegfried O is South Asia Democratic Forum think tank. He works there as a director. It's in Brussels, Belgium. Then please welcome Mr. Haroon Habib. Mr. Haroon Habib is writer, veteran journalist, and columnist of Bangladesh. He is a freedom fighter and Secretary General of Sector Commanders Forum, a national platform of the 1971 war veterans. Please welcome Major General Retired Abdur Rashid. I guess he is not here. He will come a bit later. Then please welcome Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya. Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya is the editor of Bangladesh Khobor. It's in Bengali and Bangladesh News in English. He is a veteran journalist and former managing editor of national news agency Bangladesh Sangbad Sanstha. Please welcome Mr. Younus Ali Khan, founding president, Bangabandhu Foundation, Germany. And please welcome Mr. Bikash Chowdhury, journalist and writer, the Netherlands, and also co-president of European Bangladesh Forum, EBF. Dear viewers, this program is divided into 4 sections. The first section there will be a short background of today's conference. Then in the second section, there will be presentations or speech by our distinguished speakers of this panel. And in the third section, we will have a Q&A session for about 10 minutes if we get questions from our viewers. And finally, we'll conclude this conference with key findings or key remarks of our viewers, that what we have found from this whole thing. Now, I invite Mr. Bikash Chowdhury, co-president of European Bangladesh Forum, to give his inaugural speech that will include a short background of today's conference. Mr. Chowdhury, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Mojibur Daftori. Thanks to the distinguished speakers, participants, and viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening as well, everybody. Day after tomorrow, the 26th of March 2021, Bangladesh will celebrate 50 years of its independence from Pakistan after a 9-month-long bloody war. We are holding this virtual conference at a time when the world leaders are visiting Bangladesh in connection with the Golden Jubilee celebration of the birth of Bangladesh. Viewers, the month of March is a very significant month for Bangladesh and the Bengalis as well. It is in this month that the historic call by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the nation, was given at a mammoth gathering at Racecourse Maidan in Dhaka on 7th of March 1971. It was in this month, the 17th of March, when Bangabandhu was born, and again it was in this month on 26th of March 1971, a new nation was born under the dynamic leadership of Bangabandhu, a nation which once termed as bottomless basket by the then American Foreign Secretary Henry Kissinger, is now marching ahead and has become an example, a model of development in the whole world. I, on this day, pay my deep respect and homage to this great leader. Viewers, now to come to the subject of the discussion today, I would like to mention that from the very start of the liberation war, Bangladesh received total support from its great neighboring country India in 1971. India opened her borders to over 10 million of Bengali refugees in 1971, gave them shelter, food, medicine, and more importantly, safety. India provided trainings to our freedom fighters, all other support. The friendship that started during that period continued to grow, and this friendship is today between the two friendly countries is more stronger than ever before. Bangladesh and India, you all know, share many things in common, especially in terms of history, politics, and culture. India's relations with Bangladesh are traditionally cultural, social, and economic. There is more that brings them together: a shared history and common heritage, linguistic and cultural ties, passion for music, literature, and the arts. Bangladesh and India shares a common history of struggle for freedom and liberation. Dear participants, we know about the India-Bangladesh Treaty. In fact, it was the Indo-Soviet Treaty in 1971, which was later adopted as the India-Bangladesh Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation in 1971. This treaty acted as instrumental in restraining Pakistan and its allies from embarking upon a course of what my journalist friend Salim Samad in his article in the Dhaka Daily recently termed as military adventurism in the subcontinent. The treaty also gave a signal with warning to superpower China's hegemonistic ambitions in the continent. The treaty, in fact, expedited the Bangladesh Liberation War and resulted in the surrender of the 93,000 Pakistani soldiers in Dhaka on 16 December 1971. Dear all, I would love to go further, but I have to stop here and make room for the distinguished speakers whom we have invited, some of whom were in the field during the Liberation War, who were freedom fighters, to share their views on the subject of the day. I hope the discussion will be very fruitful today. But before I end, I thank all the distinguished members of the panel of today's discussion and the media partner of EBF, European Bangladesh Forum, British Bangla News, and its CEO, Mr. ATM Munir in London. With this, I give the floor to the moderator of the program, Dr. Mazibur Daftari. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Chowdhury, for contextualizing the issues and perspectives for today's conference. Now, I request Mr. Haroon Habib, veteran journalist and Secretary General of Sector Commanders Forum, to give his presentation. Mr. Haroon Habib, the floor is yours. You can unmute. Yeah.
Thank you, the distinguished panelist. The independence of Bangladesh, ending 22 years of Pakistani subjugation in the name of so-called religious fraternity, was the result of a heroic struggle of the Bengali people who fought a 9-month-long war in 1971. The leader of the unique uprising was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, called popularly Bangabandhu, the friend of Bengal. The South Asian country, now having 160 million plus people, celebrates 50th anniversary of independence on March 26 this year. This is indeed a joyous historic event, particularly for us who had the privilege of taking part in the national war. But simultaneously, 1971 is the year of extreme human cruelty, as the Pakistani army and their cohorts unleashed a brutal genocide on unarmed civilians, killing an estimated 3 million people, considered as one of the 5 major genocides in the post World War II era. It is also well documented that the genocidal army raped an estimated 300,000 to 400,000 Bengali women as part of their war strategy. On this historic occasion, Bangladesh will also remember another tragedy as the atrocities which has spread all over the then is Pakistan and continued for 9 long months, drove 10 million people to cross the international border to India. India had to open its eastern border to protect these beleaguered people. Geopolitically, Bangladesh war was held in the context of prevailing Cold War scenario. As you all know, the United States under President Nixon had bitterly opposed the split of Pakistan, even supplied arms to the genocidal army. China, as well, took a vigorous stand in support of Pakistan. Coming out of initial hesitations, the countries of Europe
রশিদ
and
ভাই,
some in Asia,
কে কাজ করতেছে না তো?
any
Okay,
problem?
you continue, please. Yeah.
Okay. China, as well, took a vigorous stand in support of Pakistan. Coming out from initial hesitations, the countries of Europe and some in Asia have largely come out with the condemnation of the genocide and mass rape, pleading political solutions of Bangladesh crisis. The Soviet bloc all along was supportive to the Bangladesh cause as it was a close India's ally. It was, in fact, a crucial test for India, the largest democracy led by then Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi, to manage the crisis. India had to face quite a few major problems at the time. Firstly, it had to give shelter to 10 million refugees who crossed its border to escape genocide. Secondly, an open animosity of both the United States and China besides Pakistan. And thirdly, India faced both domestic and international troubles as the Bangladesh's government in exile and the Bengali freedom fighters all had operated from within Indian territory. But enjoying an unequivocal support from his people, Indira Gandhi's boldness and masterly diplomatic strokes had yielded positive results. More and more countries lended support to India's viewpoint, and finally, India itself joined the war directly, fought shoulder to shoulder with the Bengali freedom fighters when scores of its soldiers died. The Indian involvement in the war of 71 was prompted by the hasty Pakistani decision to attack Indian Western region. India and Bangladesh not only share more than 4,000 kilometers of common borders, but they have also many things in common in terms of history, heritage, economy, language, and culture. However, during past 50 years, their relations had not gone always smooth, despite the fact that India's help was crucial for Bangladesh's emergence. In fact, a new beginning was in sight in 1996 when the Awami League, the party which led the 1971 Liberation War and founded by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, came to power following assassination of the country's founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, in 1975. We can see yet another pause in the relations in 2001 to 2007. But the two countries since 2009 marched ahead rather boldly to cement their ties, taking a set of bold steps to begin a new chapter. Lots of things were successfully accomplished since then. There are many areas where the two countries have made remarkable progress. Bilateral connectivity and trade have been grown steadily. It may be recalled that Bangladesh moved to a different direction away from the history and spirit of 1971 following the 1975 assassination of the nation's founding father. secular forces took the center stage of politics, vitiating bilateral relations with India. It is widely believed that the Bangladeshi political Islamist militants, Islamic militants, are being patronized by Pakistan even today after 50 years. Notably, the India-Bangladesh relations have so far faced obstacles broadly from three categories of adversaries. That is my very personal view. Firstly, the traditional foes who still pursue the older mindsets of colonial era. Second, the new followers of anti-Bangladesh elements who were defeated in the 1971 war by the Mukti Bahini and the Indian Mitra Bahini. And thirdly, the political Islamists who would never like to see the relations prolonged. There is another important point to be noted. The political Islamists of Bangladesh always get new lease of life if Indian national politics is directed in line of religion. Therefore, a progressive secular approach of national politics of both the countries can supplement the effort which the two countries have lately undertaken. In the conclusion, I can say, in the interest of a modern collective living, India and Bangladesh, I strongly believe, must be brave enough to open newer connectivities, as it is the key to change the region for the collective good. And this should not be in terms of land, road, and waterways alone. It must be cultural and people to people as well. And as Bangladesh and India celebrate their 50th year of diplomatic ties, the political leadership must look beyond their borders to search for a meaningful partnership for a peaceful, prosperous, and progressive region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Haroon Habib, for your illuminating presentation regarding the Cold War context of the freedom struggle, independent war of Bangladesh. Now, we are happy that our another guest has appeared now on the screen. He is Mr. Major General retired Abdur Rashid. Uh, he is the president. He is the president of Executive Director of Institute of Conflict Law and Development. Warm welcome to the program. Would you like to give your presentation now?
No problem. Thank you very
Okay,
much for inviting
please,
me
please.
to Mr. Bikash and also the Mr. Dr. Mazibur. The first thing is that India-Bangladesh relation, if we analyze at this point of 50 years of our independence, certainly it has got a lot of ups and downs. So we saw that why Bangladesh has been supported by India during our liberation, and that is for which we own our liberation in 1971. During that period, I must recall the condition of the geopolitical condition of the world that might have been mentioned by my previous speaker, Mr. Haroon Habib, is the Cold War condition. The Cold War was in the peak
Sorry,
at
I
that
have to
time.
intervene. Sorry. Can the others unmute their microphone, please? Or mute, sorry.
I
Mr.
would
Younus Ali
follow
Khan,
you
please mute.
once
Okay.
again.
Yeah,
To mute the microphone, Mr. Younus Ali and the rest, please.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, please.
Okay, thank you.
Should I go
Yeah,
ahead?
please, you continue. You continue, please.
Okay. So in that situation, once that our freedom struggle started, so automatically we have seen the world was divided in the line of the Cold War. So automatically we received the support of half of the world, and also some half of the world went against us. So later on, the after liberation, certainly situation started changing. We entered into the total world community, and you see, after Bangladesh, there is we had the four pillars of our constitution, and in which one was there is as a socialism. And after Bangladesh came into being, and we have seen our what is called our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the role that he wanted to play in the world is to uh, actually to give the economic freedom to the oppressed people of the world, not only Bangladesh. So for which we have seen that many people started going against him. And last that I remember in 1974, once he was attending a NAM conference, and there he has spoken the same words. And at the time, the Fidel Castro whispered in his ear that from now on, a bullet will follow you. You know, so automatically we have seen that he has to, our father of the nation has to lay down his life for the country or for the oppressed people in 1975. So those people who have organized his killing certainly has some connotation with the total geopolitical condition of the world and the appearance of Bangladesh as an independent country, and that also is connected to the relation between India and Bangladesh. So after Bangladesh came into being, we have seen a group, those who lost or the defeated force in 1971, started never liked the relation, a good relation between Bangladesh and India. So we have seen, if carefully, if we analyze, we see that somewhat a group of defeated forces in Bangladesh wanted Bangladesh to have a foreign policy or a policy towards India which should have a commonality with Pakistan. So, but Bangladesh has always followed its independent policy, maintaining a good relation with India. So automatically, they started creating a condition and also spreading different rumors about the India and Bangladesh relations. So that is that. At this moment, also we see the same thing. A group of people try to prevent coming of the Prime Minister of India into Bangladesh, though he has visited earlier too. But main thing is that a kind of a situation presented that India is sucking Bangladesh or sucking into all these juice. But which is, if we see that certainly a neighboring country will have a lot of issues. So Bangladesh and India has issues, no problem. But the major issues, the important issues have been solved. For example, I can refer you one is a land boundary agreement. We have solved our land boundary. We have solved our major issues of maritime boundary. So these are the bigger issues. So automatically the solving the problem between the neighbors is gradually on. And now the more connected, if we integrate the whole South Asia using a connectivity, which now Bangladesh India is focusing at this moment, and they somewhat see that this connectivity is going to tie up the whole South Asia and excluding Pakistan. So automatically, so they are somewhat very against it, and we have found that a kind of political forces have been used in this case. And now also Bangladesh, we have seen that you see a lot of people are trying to say that India-Bangladesh relation is not good for Bangladesh future or the development of Bangladesh. And we see that kind of a cooperation between these two nations is very important. India also put a lot of importance about the relation with Bangladesh on its own interest. And usually Bangladesh also has a lot of cooperation. And this cooperation, if we can somewhat make into enmity, so geopolitical condition of the South Asia will be changing. So in the pretext we see for this relation building or relation disturbing, and we see some of the foreign powers are entangled into the total game. So now we see, but the people that Mr. Haroon Habib has already mentioned, the cultural ties. You see that India being the neighbor, it is the only country where the Bangladesh has got a very historical ties, including culture, including language, and even we share the same year. So that is the important thing. So now the same kind of situation, if I refer that Bangladesh is still about 1.5 million people visits India every year. So that is actually giving some sort of a projection of the ties between the two nations. Otherwise, no other country is being visited by the Bangladeshis with such big numbers. So in this situation, we see that our Boimela is participated by them. Their Boimela is book fair, means they participated by Bangladeshi writers. I'm sure Mr. Haroon Habib has gone there also to see that book fair in Calcutta. So this sort of relations creating a bondage. So now this bondage is how much it is affecting the total geopolitical condition of the South Asia or the Indian Ocean belt is now to be seen. At this moment, we see that China-Indian border conflict is turned or affecting the geopolitical condition in that region, for which we see that expansionism of the Chinese towards rather Indian neighborhoods, I would rather say, is now we see. So automatically that new effort has created a new condition in the South Asia. So I am sure that geopolitical condition during the 71 war has impact still today. In 71 war, we have seen that China was vehemently moved against Bangladeshi liberation war, and I'm sure that China, not even he put twice a veto in the United Nations against the Bangladesh membership. So that is to be taken into our consideration that historically who played what role. Still, that I remember that 3 million people laid down their lives for our liberation, and for which, if you find the cause of the death, and there will find that there will be at least 60 to 70% has a reason of Chinese bullet for their killing in 1971. So these are historical issues. We cannot actually forget the history very quickly. We do have a very good relation, but the depth of the relationship or the geopolitical consideration of the South Asia has got an impact. Now we see another one. It is very shocking. Actually, it hurts my mind is what that Bangladesh has been recognized by the China after the killing of our fathers of the nation. Why? So that is to be taken into our analysis that why this thing had happened, and now the situation was trying to be made into in other direction. Now at this moment, as we see, the Bangladesh actually fought a war with Pakistan, 1971 Pakistan occupational force, and which was supported by China at that time, is still being supported. So we see a few of the countries to turn the Bangladesh in the favor or towards the move of Pakistan. We see the China is actually having their foreign policy directed in that line. I also see some other countries like Turkey also join in that line. So automatically geopolitical condition is affected at this moment with our historical consideration too. So Bangladesh and India, what I see, the relation, that in the 50 years, these two neighbors had not fought a single war. They have made a big cooperation. Now they are on the way of connectivity. I can see also the bridge seed money, 500 million was given by the India as a gesture of the friendship. So there are a lot of things I can refer. But the question is that we also equally refer the other issues which actually used to affect the relationship. For example, Tista water. So that is being spread in this way that yes, Bangladesh is denied this right. Yeah, I do agree. It is denied. India must take the due consideration of the points or the issues which affects the people's pulse. So that pulse must be, we must ensure that issues which are created to affect the people's pulse must be taken into consideration. At this moment, we see that Indian West Bengal elections, if you follow very carefully, you'll find a lot of rhetorics on Bangladesh is on the political arena of West Bengal. So automatically, whether it will affect the relationship between Bangladeshi people and the Indian people or not must be taken into consideration. We cannot only live in the dream environment. We know that to exploit this situation, there are many powers are waiting, and they're trying to use these sort of things to change the minds of the Bangladeshi people towards the India. So I am sure that Bangladesh-Indian relationship has got a very depth and historical connection, cultural connection. So automatically it is not easy to cut this relationship with these so-called issues. So I believe that issues must be taken into consideration in developing relation further or cementing bondage. The people's to people's relation is so much strong. Whenever I see that Bangladesh Indian people are so integrated, so that integration is not easy to be broken in the other geopolitical conditions. So I'm sure that we will have a very good relationship, and our historical geopolitical condition must be kept in mind while we analyze the present situation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mujib.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Major General Retired Abdur Rashid, for your valuable presentation, illuminating many aspects of Bangladesh-India relations from international relations point of view. Now, I request Dr. Siegfried Wolf to give his presentation. Dr. Wolf, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for the kind invitation to speak today to you. It's always a pleasure and a big honor. I will focus in my presentation on the international context, on the support or not support from major actors at that. As you all know, in 1971, the world witnessed the emergence of Bangladesh. During its struggle for liberation, the Bengali people had to face not only extreme atrocities, but also a genocide of 3 million people conducted by Pakistani forces and their Islamist collaborators. The question that arises is why the international community was not willing to stop the military operations in then Pakistan's eastern wing right from the beginning. Due to the present international media and diplomatic missions, there was credible and impartial reporting about the start of large and target killings in Dhaka and in other parts of Bangladesh. Most remarkable in this context were the reports of the US Consul General Asher Blood until he was recalled from his post in Dhaka for obviously being too inconvenient. Most significant was his last cable on April 6, 1971, the so-called Blood Telegram, in which he denounced the complicity of the US administration of then US President Richard Nixon and his national security advisor Henry Kissinger and the genocide. In this context, one has to state that the whole process of Bangladeshi state formation didn't happen in a South Asian vacuum. The national liberation struggle of the Bengali people against the oppression of West Pakistan coincided with and became enmeshed in a major structural transformation of the then existing international relations. The most characteristic feature of this phenomenon was that the rivaling two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, was loosening. A major catalyst of this was the Soviet-China split which became unbridgeable after the ideological differences between Maoist Beijing and Marxist-Leninist Moscow, culminating at the border conflict between both countries in 1969. Not only was the myth of a monolithic communist camp publicly brought to an end, but also increasing strains within the anti-communist coalition appeared. The rising conflicts over economic interests between the United States, Western Europe, and Japan marked the onset of a mutual alienation. As a result, the global order, the bipolarity towards some kind of multipolarity. Even thought the old polar powers, the United States and Soviet Union, were still dominant, the leverage with its growing economic power, and India with respect to its large landmass and huge population. Nevertheless, the sharp Cold War antagonism, as well as the omnipresent threat of a Third World War, this very context had severe implications for the Bangladeshi independence struggle. The political leadership of the most significant players at the global scene were aware that the newly emerging international system became more politically volatile and became more difficult to maintain control over areas which were seen as part of their respective influence. Especially Washington, after the failure of its rollback policy against communism as the Korea War and Bay of Pigs invasion demonstrated, a major redefinition of its foreign policy was getting off the ground. At the core of this decision was an understanding that the relaxation in the Soviet-US relation was necessary. From a US perspective, to taunt the encrusted Cold War constellation, a rapprochement with China, which would also keep ambitious newcomers like India at bay, was seen as one of the most eminent strategies. The overall aim of this newly introduced policy was to balance Beijing with Moscow, as well as to restrain the influence of the increasingly apparent alliance between New Delhi and Moscow. The Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty, signed in August 1971, further aggravated Nixon's personally antipathy against India and her Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Despite the fact that China under Mao Zedong was also ready to open up towards Washington because it was confronted with Soviet forces amassing at its borders, the US had no direct access to the Chinese leadership at that time. This brought Pakistan into the picture. With the help of Islamabad and the support of the army, a secret liaison between Washington, ally of convenience to secure West interests in South Asia, and Pakistan was identified as the only possible conduit for it. However, very skeptical regarding the prospects for West Pakistan to maintain control over its eastern wing. Of liberating themselves, Pakistani choke become even poorer with the view on the Indian support for the freedom fighters and the unfavorable geographic administration feared any foreign intervention in Bangladesh. US were primarily concerned about intervention.
So it seems that we have a net problem, Dr. Wolf. If we can, we don't hear you. So can we move to Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya now? Now I request Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya, a veteran journalist, to give his presentation. Mr. Bhuya, the floor is yours. Yes, you can unmute, please. Unmute. Yeah. Yeah, please continue.
As you already told that I was a freedom fighter. I took training at the Tandua Military Academy of Dehradun in India, which is the second largest installations of military training in the world, just next to St. Hurst. I will just go to 2 points. On the fateful night of March 25, 1971, when the brutal Pakistani occupation forces, in the name of infamous Operation Searchlight, cracked down on the sleeping people of Dhaka, they resorted to indiscriminate killing, rape, arson, looting, and evicted millions of people from their common hearts. It was a very shocking for us because at that time I was an activist of student politics. We are every day, even on the evening of 25 March, we are dreaming for achieving our independence, freeing our country. The entire Bangladesh was vigorously, people was raising slogan in favor of independence of the country. But the next day, on the 26th March, we are really totally frustrated when we saw that our beloved leader, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was escorted to West Pakistan under arrest. And immediately we thought that our all hopes and aspirations for having an independent country, to put an end to the colonial rules of West Pakistan was over. We are totally frustrated. But this mood, this frustrating attitude of us did not last more than 72 hours. While on 27th March, the then Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, rushed to the Parliament and while addressing a joint session of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, declared that India will not let Bangladesh die. This, I repeat, India will not let Bangladesh die. After getting this message, we again become inspired and we thought that the independent Bangladesh is no more a dream. It is a reality and time will tell when we will achieve it. I will give you another small story. When I was in Dehradun, it was about August, mid-August. We are on training. In the morning, we saw some ominous sign. Some rumor was hovering in the air that there was an international conspiracy by President Nixon to jeopardize our liberation war, to destroy it. And this Nixon nominated his chief defense advisor, Dr. Henry Kissinger, to implement that ploy. That ploy was, we heard from our leaders in the camp that America, in the name of political settlement of Bangla, East Pakistan, will convene some summit, and at the same time, they contacted some people, the Bangladeshi MPs, some leaders. I can also name somebody under the leadership of Mustaq. They tried to allure at least 50% of the MP so that they come back to Dhaka, and then they will form a government with a Bangladeshi as Prime Minister of Pakistan. We are very much frustrated to heard this rumor and after taking lunch, when you go to the canteen, we heard a BBC news, or you have heard that President Nixon warned Indira Gandhi not to push her nose in East Pakistan matter because it is an internal matter of Pakistan. We became again frustrated with that international conspiracy. But luckily at night, when we again go to the canteen and heard a news from All India Radio that Mrs. Gandhi gave a repeating reply to Mr. Nixon, I know very much that East Pakistan is an internal issue of Pakistan. But don't forget that India have thousands of years of record of civilization. So India will not remain as a silent spectator at a time when innocent people are being indiscriminately killing in our next door. Then we were relieved, and we heard that that conspiracy could not take place because of the geopolitical situation, not geopolitical situation, internal political situation. You know, it is a very good sign. It is a very good thing for our liberation struggle, because 1971, our liberation struggle started at a spine moment when the Cold War between the superpower, especially two superpower, USSR and USA, was at the zenith, to the top. So we easily got the support of major superpower led by USSR, and you know, at least for 4 times, USA gave more proposal to destroy our liberation struggle in the name of political settlement, and every time Soviet Union exercised its veto power and frustrated the evil conspiracy of America. You know, I was a member of Bangladesh Liberation Force, in short BLF, but it is popularly known as Mujib Bahini. I will take this opportunity to say a few words. Somebody misleading that when there is a regular armed forces of Bangladesh government, which we call Mujibnagar government, when there is a freedom fighters, why there are some other people are taking training in the name of Mujib Bahini at Dehradun. It was nothing. We are told them. Fortunately, within 9 months, our war was ended. It was not expected. It may be like Cambodia, it may be like Vietnam, even it may be like Palestine. For decades together they are fighting. God forbid, if such situation happens, then the conventional army could not prolong this liberation war more than a decade or long. But if there was needed a long-standing war, like guerrilla warfare, then that must be participated by the freedom fighters having political commitment. So those who we are committed to the spirit of war of liberation, who were the true disciple of the ideals of our founding father Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. We were recruited to take training with a view to launch a guerrilla warfare if needed, if the war became prolonged. So I am happy I could be a member of that team, and I was later entrusted with the command of a subdivision. So I just ask today's issue of the discussion is geopolitical factors such as a situation. We are grateful to India that it gave our moral, physical, psychological, financial, and direct military support. Unless there are direct military support, it would hard on our part to achieve our independence. Yeah. But Soviet Union, we are also grateful to our great friend. I am just giving one example. According to political science doctrine, a small country, besides a very vast country, is hardly sovereign. But the exception is Cuba. You all know, staying under the belly of vast American country, they are living with their head erect for decades after decades. This is because they were blessed by a leader who is called Fidel Castro. And God also has given us a Fidel Castro. He is our founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Because he was there, because he could come from the prison of Pakistan to independent country, what we achieve? No. Even before 3 months lapses, all the allied forces, Indian troops were taken back from Bangladesh soil to India. It is unprecedented in the contemporary history. We know the Second World War troops are still staying in Japan, Korea, etc., and Kuwait also I have seen there. But because we have our founding father, we got the privilege to free our country from any pressure. And Mr. Rashid, he rightly said that we are not getting Tista, due share of Tista water. He mentioned this, but I mentioned that because there was Bangabandhu, we got the due share of Ganges water, 45 cusecs of water. It was hardly, rationality was 35,000 or more. But because there was Bangabandhu, a leader like Bangabandhu, we got 45 cusecs of water. However, I will not tell anything about America. American government was against us, but American people were very much with Bangladesh. The Democratic Party totally supported to Bangladesh liberation war. And I will just give one example. You know all, Dr. Henry Kissinger. I don't want to put any adverse adjective against him. He is a very good gentleman. When he failed to frustrate our liberation war, halt our independence, he tried to defame us by saying that we are a bottomless basket and it will be a failed state. However, Mr. Haroon Habib was our MD when I was covering that incident. You know, Sheikh Hasina was given an award, Bioani Peace Award of UN, and that was given in the UNICEF headquarters in Paris. I was covering that history. And I was very much interested to see the attitude of Dr. Henry Kissinger, who defended a newly born country as a bottomless basket. What is his role? Because he was the chairman of the jury board that given that award. And I was waiting to see his reaction. When his turn came, he came to the dais and said, "Today I am very happy to be able to hand over this covetous award, which is after the name of my friend, to such a person whose family, whose father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was very much known to me, and the entire audience was burst into laughter and applauses, the whole auditorium." And he said, with his bearing his wide smile on his face, he said, "Really, in 1970, we are misled by our intelligence report. They said that 70 election could not bring any solution to East Pakistan."
Thank you, Mr. Bhuya. We are near your ending of your time. Could you please do it in half a minute?
Half a minute. Yeah. And said that I am very much proud that although we are misguided by our intelligence, who said that 70 election could not bring any solution to East Pakistan problem because no party will emerge as majority party. And he burst into laughter and said how interesting our intelligence report was, how misleading. You know, the result of 70 election, the Awami League own not only in province, the whole country, Awami League own as a majority party of the whole of the Pakistan. And now, when we became a hunger-free, prosperous, rice-exporting country, I want to know the mentality of our friend, Dr. Henry Kissinger, what he is now thinking.
Yeah.
I expressed my gratitude to Bhutan, because being a small country, it becomes the proud privilege to be the top among the nations who first gave recognition to Bangladesh. Although within few hours, India gave us recognition and etc. Another aspect is always remain hidden. Afghanistan, a trouble-torn country, always sometimes Taliban, sometimes so and so. But Afghan people lend wholehearted support to Bangladesh. One of my cousins, with the help of Afghan people, escaped from Pakistan via India to Bangladesh. All Afghanistan people supported our liberation war. Yeah. And big country, you know, Japan. Also, still Japan top the list of the helping partners of Bangladesh. Is the biggest aid givers to the reconstruction.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhuya, for your presentation. We have crossed your time. I'm extremely sorry to stop you.
Thank you.
Now we return to Dr. Siegfried O. We had some technical issue. We couldn't hear him, so now he's returning again. Please, Dr. Wolf, please continue.
So, yeah, I hope you can hear me better, and I will be not again.
Yes.
I will take the liberty to bring you back from Afghanistan to Washington, where I think I got cut off from the line. As I mentioned, that the Nixon administration feared any foreign administration intervention into the Bangladesh Liberation War, and the US was particularly concerned about the Indian intervention. Washington's rationale was that New Delhi would bandwagon with the struggle of the Bengali to finally settle its scores with Islamabad with dramatic consequences. It was expected that if India helped to set East Pakistan free, it would be dragged in New Delhi's slipstream and thereby be turned into another climate. Furthermore, there was a serious concern among US security circles that India would use the event to send troops towards Islamabad, meaning in the West, to oust the pro-US military regime and perhaps even to dismember its neighbor. Given the fact that Washington saw the Pakistani military as the most suitable partner for accommodating its interests in the Pakistani Rum state and the extended region, an Indian intervention was perceived as an existential interest. This means it would lose its only ally on the subcontinent, which also provided the key towards China. To prevent such a scenario from happening, Washington announced a policy of maximum intimidation against India. Therefore, US naval forces were sent into the Bay of Bengal, and China was asked to amass troops at the Indian frontier to increase pressure. At the same time, the US attempted to enforce a ceasefire through the United Nations Security Council to protect Pakistan from a military enforced breakup. However, none of these measures of the Nixon administration worked out as intended. First, the US proposal for ceasefire at the United Nations Security Council got vetoed by the Soviets. Second, the Chinese did not build up much military pressure on its border with India. Third, New Delhi was not impressed by the American gunboat and ignored the presence of the Seventh Fleet of the United States in its waters. Instead, it intervened and Bangladesh gained its independence. But the most fundamental mistake of Nixon and Kissinger was the fatal misperception of Indira Gandhi's intention regarding Pakistan and the Soviet Union. In contrast to US fears, India was not at all interested to slice the West Pakistani pie. The alliance with the Soviet Union was a logical consequence of the anti-Indian sentiments in Washington. In other words, it was based on pragmatism and not on friendship. Therefore, there was no threat that India or Bangladesh be turned into a Soviet client state. In sum, it seems that the world accepted the potential separation of East of a new independent state of Bangladesh as a fait accompli. The only remaining issue for the United States, China, and partly also for the Soviet Union was how to get West Pakistan through the East Pakistan crisis with as little damage as possible. To be sure, all major players, besides India, had no interest to get deeply involved in the conflict, neither militarily nor diplomatically, by putting sufficient pressure on Islamabad to stop the genocide among Bengali people and the pogrom-like killings of Bengali political leaders and intellectuals. Moscow and Washington just wanted to be sure that their respective adversary would not in South Asia and that no regional player would gain a hegemonic position. Therefore, maintaining the contentious triangle of India, Pakistan, China appeared the most appropriate strategy for the United States to maintain some kind of balance in South Asia. With the independence of Bangladesh and the preservation of territorial integrity of West Pakistan, this common goal was apparently achieved. The Bangladesh Liberation War demonstrated that the United States and other members were willing to fade out any esteem for democratic principles and human rights in order to achieve the goals in 1971. The prevalence of inaction regarding the genocide of the Bengali people committed by the Pakistan armed forces must be interpreted as a clear ignorance of the 1948 UN Convention on the Punishment and Prevention of the Crime of Genocide by the respective national governments. To retrieve at least partly the democratic reputation of the Western sphere, one might differentiate between the governments and societies in the US and the bandwagoning Western Europe, as we heard already earlier. There were deep sympathies towards the freedom struggle of the Bengali people among the civil societies, and much activity was carried out to pressure the political leadership to change the policy direction in favor of the Bengali people. Here's a groundbreaking article of Anthony Mascarenhas' Genocide, published in 1971, functioned as a final wake-up call. This phenomenon found not only its expression that the United States Congress was forced to pass an embargo of weapons against Pakistan, which was actually illegally undermined by the Nixon administration, but also in some of the world's greatest charity events. Concerts for Bangladesh were organized in New York to raise funds and international awareness for the refugees following the genocide. However, these efforts were made far too late to change the unfortunate course of trajectories of global politics. To conclude, the victims of the Bangladesh Liberation War were not only sacrifices of the Pakistani army, but also of the global realpolitik at this time. Or in other words, they were a payoff for helping the United States to open up towards China. However, the price for this policy, 3 million killed Bengali, 30 million internally displaced persons, the exodus of 10 million people, the rape of hundreds of thousands of women, and the raging of wide parts of the country was paid by the Bengali people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Wolf, for your presentation. Now, I will call names of our guests today to give a very short presentation, maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. Mr. Haroon Habib, if you can put your last remarks. Please unmute. Please unmute your mic. Please unmute your mic. Can you hear me? Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear Dr. Wolf giving a very, very elaborate presentation on the geopolitical aspect of 1971, and also others, General Rashid and Mr. Aziz has given a very good elaboration. I thank Dr. Wolf for mentioning the international failure to stop the large-scale genocide and mass rape in Bangladesh. I think it is very quite right, and therefore I want to place before here a sort of a proposal so that this virtual presentation can take it and adopt it. That yet today, 50 years it is that Bangladesh liberation was held in 1971. Pakistan, even today, after 50 years, hasn't offered any formal apology to Bangladesh people, which the Bangladesh people want. On the other hand, the sensible Pakistani quarters have been demanding this thing, but Pakistan did not do that. Secondly, I also like to raise the demand afresh that the 195 war criminals which the post-independent Bangladesh government had identified before they were gone back to their own state, Pakistan, that those 95 prisoners of war, not the prisoner of war, that's the war criminals, should be tried, because Pakistan had repeatedly said that they will do so, but Pakistan did not do that till the date. On the other hand, Pakistan's own judicial commission, that is the Justice Hamudur Rahman Commission, which was instituted by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, then the president, they recommended trial of all those Pakistani military officers who were responsible for crimes against humanity, and but Pakistan did not do that. So, in this conference, in concluding my last remark, I can say that no crimes against humanity can be forgiven. That is the international standing international law. So can we raise, even after 50 years of Bangladesh's independence, that Pakistan must try its war criminals as it has promised many a times in the past, and also offer formal apology to the Bangladesh people for the atrocities its troops had committed in 1971. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haroon Habib, for raising very pertinent issue here. Now I request Major General retired Abdur Rashid to put his last moment remarks.
Thank you very much. What I consider after hearing Dr. Wolf, that for geopolitical interest, the humanity have been sacrificed in 1971. For that reason, 3 million people had to lay down their lives, and nobody was there to save Bangladeshi people at that time. So automatically, this conflict turned into a military conflict, and ultimately Bangladeshi people had militarily enforced independence. So I mean to say that once we talk about geopolitics, so for the geopolitical interest, sometimes all these crimes that has been mentioned by Mr. Haroon Habib is submerged or goes or under the carpet. So that we must ensure that geopolitical interest must not abolish the rights of the people. Bangladesh, rise of the Bangladesh is one thing that you have to see historically, that Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman actually put up the rights of the Bengali people through his 6 points demands. But India was divided in 1947 on two nations theory, which was based on the religion. So Bangladesh is the one country which came with a secular nation and actually demanded the rights of the people. So rights of the people is very important, and we must focus on that. In the geopolitical condition, we also see now, as Bangladesh is partly affected by the Rohingya people who has to leave their own homestead and take refuge to Bangladesh because of, again, the military enforced torture. So that is here also, nobody is talking much about their protection, their caregivings, etc. So we must see that geopolitical interest, if we see that our South Asian or even the global interest, nobody is taking due care for that. So I'm sure today, as we are feeling, the geopolitical understanding in 1971 was not in favor of Bangladeshi people who were actually fighting for the rights. So automatically now we must create a kind of a world where the people's right will be highlighted or protected by the political leadership or the geopolitical leadership of the world. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Major General retired Abdur Rashid. I would request now Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuiya to give a very short last remark. You can unmute, please. Yeah.
Mr. Haroon Habib, for raising very pertinent point for the world power to force Pakistan to seek formal apology for the crimes, including rape, they committed in Bangladesh. And he also demanded the trial of POWs. I will add two more points. You know, Pakistan has left 500,000 of its citizens who are called BRs. They were more dangerous than the Pakistan occupation forces. They killed the Bengalis like anything. And when Bangabandhu gave the option, who wants to go to Pakistan as Pakistani, who wants to stay in Bangladesh as Bengali, They 500,000 people gave option to go to Pakistan. And Pakistan committed several times to bring back their people. That 500,000 now became 100,000. In the last 50 years, their number, but Pakistan did not drawing its citizens. It's a crime. It's a pressure on the poor economy of Bangladesh. Bangladesh already gave shelter to 1 million refugees from Burma, the Myanmar people. So the international community should force Pakistan to bring back its people from Bangladesh. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya, for your valuable remarks. Now I request Mr. Bikash Chowdhury to shortly give his last remarks.
Uh, mm, Thank you, Dr. Mujib. I don't have as such any further
Okay.
remarks, but I'll just address one point mentioned by Mr. Haroon Habib and also Mr. Aziz Miya. Uh, Mr. Haroon Habib has rightly mentioned about the one pertinent point, that is demanding Pakistan for an formal apology for its atrocities or genocide in 1971. And just for your information and for the information of the viewers, I would like to mention here that EPF has been working relentlessly for years together, demanding the trial of the uh, 195, 195 soldiers uh, who were, and Pakistan promised to try them, but it has not happened, and we have been demanding for that, and we are also demanding justice to the victims. And at the same time, I would like to inform you that on 14th April uh, this year, EPF and the support from the local Bangladeshi uh, living in Netherlands, we are organizing one demonstration in front of the Bangladesh embassy, The Hague, demanding demanding formal apology from Pakistan government, official apology for its atrocities in Bangladesh. And with this, I would like to end here. But before I end, I thank once again to all panel members, especially our good friend Dr. Siegfried O, veteran journalist, my senior colleague with whom I had the privilege to work when I started my career after the university as a reporter in Chittagong, Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya, and I had always respect for Haroon Habib. I didn't have the chance to interact with him, but I knew him for a long time when he was a very bright and dashing reporter when I was a junior reporter, and both of them, I respect both of them very much. And of course, uh, to Major General retired Abdur Rashid, and we had the privilege to have him in one of our programs in Brussels. And thank you, everybody. And of course, last but not least, the wonderful performance of our friend Dr. Virgili. And with this, and thanks to the host of this, our media partner, British Bangla News Channel, and its CEO, Mr. Etienne Muri. Please, thank you very much once again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Bikash Chowdhury Borua, for your comment. Now I will go through all these major points what our distinguished panel members have raised. So from the discussion of our guest, we see that one point comes very clearly that Bangladesh and India are very close neighbors geographically. We all know it, and we have a shared history, culture, and democratic values, which is unique in South Asia or in Asian context. And India, fortunately, and also Bangladesh, fortunately, had visionary politicians like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and Bangladesh got Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. These were the thinker politicians. Based on their ideals, India could go through this democratic process. It was a huge, huge work for India to take this path of democracy, what is unique in Asian continent. And in Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman followed this Indian path of secular democratic nationalism and democratic values, and all his fights were, and as well as all are based on this independence war was based on this democratic principle after the 1970s general election. And Bangladesh's liberation war was a matter of shared democratic values, multiculturalism, pluralism, and secularism, which goes back to Mahatma Gandhi. And Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman played a different role because Bangladeshi context was a bit different than Indian context in 1947. So, and India played a major role. Not only Gandhi, we followed the Gandhian route, but we also followed the other Indian leaders, and Indian leaders gave direct support to Bangladesh's liberation war, independence war, as well as arranging diplomatic support throughout the world, particularly through then Soviet Union. So this is very important, and this comes clearly while some speaker talked about local context and several speakers spoke about geopolitical context of India. So this comes prominently over here. And after the independence war, as a good neighbor of India, Bangladesh and Bangladeshis remember the Indian role, how it helped the Bengali people to uphold its democratic values and have fulfill its inspiration for an independent, secular, democratic, independent nation. Bangladesh paid back to India somehow by uprooting armed insurgency in the northeast Indian soil, and also under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina, the Bangladesh also played a major problem-solving role, like as well as India played a problem-solving role, like solving the problem of land boundary as well as question of exclusive economic zone in the sea. So these have been has already come in different talk of our different guests. And also now Bangladesh and India is getting to more cooperation, economic cooperation as well as connectivity. This is one major issue which is very important for Bangladesh and India's future, as well as South Asian future and Asian future, I guess. And Bangladesh has got its political problem, which has some roots in its historical legacy. It is more or less historical issue, which centered on identity, which is ethno-linguistic versus religious identity. This problem is not solved for a long time. I think that gives the opportunity for the divisive forces to use religious rhetoric to divide people and try to make hazards in Indo-Bangladesh relations. So this problem can be solved by simply practicing democracy, the rule of law, equality of citizenship, that all of the major political party leaders in Bangladeshi political landscape should follow this. Because if I say that I believe in rule of law, if I believe in equality of citizenship, at the same time, we create division based on religion and other divides. So this is very dangerous game. This is very dangerous game which top leaders, particularly from various parties, have a major role to play. They can play a major role in trying to solve this kind of political impasse. This is very important here. And politics of hatred must be stopped. And these political leaders of different parties have a major role to play to stop this hatred. It's a matter of top-level politician, not on the grassroots activist. And national consensus must be built so that we can go forward, and it should be based on certain principles. What some of our valuable guests have said, that these major principles, Bangladesh's 4 national principles, this should be the base where we can build up cooperation among political parties by agreeing on these particular issues. And I want to mention that there is a changing geopolitics in the world, and where South Asia has a major role in this changing landscape, India is appearing as a world power within its sphere of influence. It is also a formidable naval power, not only in South Asia, but also in Indian Ocean, Southeast Asia, and also in East Asia. So all the major political parties in Bangladesh try not to fathom this new reality. But within new reality, if Bangladesh can build up better relations with India and other neighboring countries, Bangladesh can benefit from whole new political realities where South Asia is considered as a major player in this Asian century, which is some call it Chinese century or Asian century. China and India are the major player in any way. So in last year was Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Bath centenary, and this year is the 50th year or golden jubilee of Bangladesh's liberation war, and relation between Bangladesh and India has been reaffirmed through this golden time. This is also a time for India and Bangladesh to reaffirm their relations and build more and more people-to-people contact, and make a better, prosperous, secured, and honorable future for all of us. This is very important, and India is our neighbor, as Finland has its neighbor as Russia. Even though the whole world was once criticizing Finland for being very humble with Russia, but Finnish President Urho Kekkonen, that time, for several decades, he was doing excellent relations with Soviet Russia and doing excellent business, and which built the base of welfare state in Finland. So I think we could understand this Finnish model, that you can always cooperate with your neighbor because you cannot change your neighbor. As for it is said that you can change your friends, but not neighbors. By keeping in this mind, we should keep our relations with neighboring countries, particularly India, and try to exploit it for betterment of all of us in Bangladesh, India, and whole Asia. And I thank my panels so much for your valuable comments on this issue. I hope you all remain safe, stay well. So I thank my distinguished guests of today's conference for their participation in this event and providing their valuable perspectives. Thank you, Dr. Siegfried O, South Asia Democratic Forum, Brussels, Belgium. Dr. Siegfried O, Mr. Haroon Habib, writer, senior journalist and columnist of Bangladesh and Secretary General, Sector Commanders Forum. I thank Major General retired Abdur Rashid, Executive Director of the Institute of Conflict Law and Development. Mr. Azizul Islam Bhuya, veteran journalist of Bangladesh and former managing editor of Bangladesh Sangbaz Sanstha, BSS. And Mr. Bikash Chowdhury Borua, journalist and writer, the Netherlands, and co-president of European Bangladesh Forum. All of you stay safe. Bye for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.